who from NXT will get drafted to the main roster come the year 2025. That is right. Prediction Denise is here. Damn, I could have come up with so much of a better name, but this was done. This was done on the spot, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. I am here to do another predictions video, but this time I'm going to try to predict who might actually get drafted to the main roster in 2025. Now, there is a lot of NXT talent. However, I decided to stick with 5 women and 5 men that I think will be drafted next year. Now, this one's very hard because some people are obvious, and then sometimes they're not so obvious. You might end up getting surprised on who actually gets drafted. After all, it's not always that we can predict what next moves WWE is going to do, especially the powers that be. So let's get to it. I want to kick things off with the men. Now, here's the thing. When it comes to the men of NXT, that roster is kind of slim. Realistically, we really can't afford to lose anybody in that division just because their presence will surely be felt. Again, I do think I say this every single week, but they really need to work to make bigger stars, particularly in their men's division, because that is one thing that I do think NXT is lacking is big male stars. And if I pluck people out, it's like, ooh, we're going to get slimmer and slimmer. But regardless, to keep up with the rules of this video, I still came up with 5 names. And so let's get to it. The first name that I want to get to, and these are in no particular order, I want to start things off with Ethan Page. So the reason I'm going with Ethan Page is kind of for a bunch of reasons. I do think Ethan Page cuts really good promos, and I feel like he just kind of would fit into the main roster very, very fast. When you think of a lot of people on the men's side for NXT, there's only a few people that I think are polished enough to be on the main roster, and one of them is Ethan Page. He's also a little bit on the older side. He's 35 years old, according to Wikipedia, and as we know, NXT is a little bit of a young man's game, right? Like you got young guys like Javon Evans, Riley Osborne, and all these other people that are super, super young on NXT, right? And Ethan Page has had the experience of working for a big promotion and working on a big stage through AEW, and of course his career on TNA as well. So I feel like Ethan Page, because of his age, because of his promos, because of the experience that he has, and he's also not bad in the ring, I do think that he's somebody that you want to get to the main roster a lot faster. Plus, he already won the NXT championship, and I kind of feel like that was sort of the thing for him to do, and he kind of already did that very, very fast. So I don't feel like there's anything else that I really want to see Ethan Page do on NXT. So more so, I'm rather clamoring to see him over on the main roster. Next up, we have Lexis King. So things haven't really been going too great for Lexis King over on NXT. They've sort of been booking him very, very strangely, where he hasn't been in any real major feuds. The matches have not really been too great, but so the opponents have just not been matching up with who you thought Lexis King was going to be on the show. Again, he sort of came into NXT with a lot of buzz. The promos were great. All of it kind of started very, very energetic for him, but it kind of just went downhill a little bit. And so part of me started to think maybe it's just the environment that he's in. What if he were to go over to the main roster and start, playing things up, having actual storylines with people that matter? If he has storylines with people that matter, I think it'll make him matter a lot more on the show. So part of me is thinking that maybe just Lexis King will have better luck on the main roster, which is why I think he should be drafted. Next up, I want to go with Shawn Spears. So now Shawn Spears is a little bit of a different story, right? Because he has been in this WWE rodeo before. He has been on the main roster before. However, now he's 43 years old. He recently came back to the company. I do think that he kind of feels a little bit like the odd man out on NXT. I don't really feel like he fits the brand because I feel like for the most part, NXT fans, just based off of like who I talk to and the comments that I see and the chats, I feel like for the most part, people love to watch NXT for the people that they don't know or for the people that they're starting to get to know, for all of the up and comers. And sometimes we do see situations where we have people from the main roster go to NXT and then, it just really works out for them. A really good example of that was Dijak, right? Like he really, sort of rebranded himself on NXT, but it shouldn't be like a long time, right? Anyway, Shawn Spears, totally different scenario, of course. Came back, was in AEW for quite a while, and then came back to WWE, and now has sort of been in, I think he's starting like a stable from the looks of it on NXT. However, it's gotten a really slow start. I don't really feel like it's too hot of, it doesn't really feel like it's a hot thing on the show. It's not the thing that people are like, oh my God, I can't wait to watch NXT to see Shawn Spears' new stable. So unfortunately, it really hasn't gotten off to a hot start, right? So part of me is thinking like, okay, either you go right now to the main roster and just get whatever you can out of it. I do think that Shawn Spears would be like a good person, for example, to have matches with people that need to get some wins on the main roster. I guess that's kind of how I see that playing out. So that's the only reason why I'm going with Shawn Spears sort of going over to the main roster. And he does have a good personality too. By the way, I did like a lot of the stuff that he did personality wise over on the AEW side of things. And then I don't think we've seen that recently in his NXT run. And I know that he has it in there. So I would like to see that over on the main roster. Next up, we have Tony D'Angelo. So Tony D'Angelo is another interesting fella because his character is very, very particular, right? He's supposed to be like this Italian mafia boss, whatever you want to call it. I'm not even sure what we're supposed to call it. He's the Don. He's the Don of NXT, right? Now, Tony D'Angelo has had some good matches throughout his NXT career, but he's not necessarily known for having like this massive, really great in-ring style, right? Like he has good matches, but he's not really known for that. I think he's mostly gotten over because the character has been fun. And yeah, it's totally different, right? But I do think that Tony D'Angelo has sort of done everything that he can do over on the NXT side. Currently, he is the NXT North American champion. And there were a lot of people that were like, why'd you take the belt off of Oba Femi for Tony D'Angelo, right? But it kind of felt like, okay, he wasn't going to be NXT champion. I don't think that he should be NXT champion right now just because I think we have higher expectations for NXT champions. And so I almost feel like he became NXT North American champion because he wasn't going to be NXT champion. He has also been a tag team champion 2 times now and an NXT Heritage Cup champion. So at this point, it feels like what else is there more for Tony D'Angelo to do? He could be a fun comedic character over on the main roster. Again, another guy that you have out there to sort of feed to people that need wins, in my opinion. And who knows, maybe the Tony D'Angelo character will, see itself in a new audience with the Raw and SmackDown people, because not everybody who watches Raw and SmackDown watches NXT. So there is a lot of new eyeballs, obviously. So I do think that maybe Tony D'Angelo might have some good luck there. And last but not least, over on the men's side, even though this would hurt NXT because this is their biggest male star, actually, I would say their biggest male star, and that is Trick Williams. Trick Williams is kind of been this rare person on NXT in the sense that for the men, he's really gotten himself over. And again, he's not a wrestler that I think people sort of associate. It's not that they really associate Trick Williams with like being a really, really great wrestler. It's more so that he has a really great presence and a really great aura. He looks like a superstar. He cuts really good promos. He's a star, and he does not have bad matches, by the way. I do think that when he's in there with really good wrestlers, you can get even more out of him, and he's only going to keep getting better. He's barely 30 years old. So I do think that the more that he works with people that are, a lot more experienced, the better that he's going to get. So I feel like at this point, stop holding back because there's just so many more options for him over on the main roster. He's got a phrase over with Whoop That Trick. Again, a great look. He looks like he looks like a WWE main roster guy. So I feel at this point, he should be on the main roster. And again, he's sort of done it all on the NXT brand. He was a men's Iron Survivor Challenge winner in 2023. He was a one-time NXT North American champion and is currently in his second NXT championship reign. And sadly, because he doesn't really have hot challengers, the reigns haven't really been hitting off that hard, only because the challengers haven't been that hot. So I'm like, all right, there's really no one to sort of mix it in there with Trick Williams anymore. I think he should go to the main roster. So now let's go ahead and get into the women's division and 5 names that I think will be called up in 2025. So this one's totally different from the men's division, right? Because women are money and we got so many women on the NXT roster that you can pass them along to Raw and SmackDown. In fact, Raw and SmackDown really need them and you'll be fine, right? Like it's not going to hurt NXT. We still got plenty of women there that we're interested in. So I went ahead and chose 5 people. Now, I'm going to start my list off with Cora Jade. And I don't know what your reaction when I said Cora Jade's name is, so let me know in the comments. But the reason why I went with Cora Jade, now she's 23 years old. She's incredibly young. She can still be in NXT for a little bit longer. However, I don't really know how to word this, but when Cora Jade was gone for a period of time, then she came back and then she got hurt. So she was gone again and then she came back. It almost felt like when Cora Jade came back, I almost felt like NXT had sort of like she didn't fit in anymore. I don't know how to explain it. To me, I feel like Cora Jade, like just based off of the way she looks, how popular she is amongst the fans, she feels a lot more main roster to me. She just has that main roster vibe where I do want to see her, mix it up with girls on the main roster, like your Zoe Starks, like your Lyra Valkyras, your Cadence, your Katanas, your Alba Fires, Isla Dawns, all of these young girls that are over on the main roster. I would love to see Cora Jade kind of mix it up with those girls already, just because, again, for whatever reason, maybe it's because she was gone from NXT for so long that it feels weird having her back. I'm not really sure what it is, but something just feels different from like the first time that we really had her on there. And she does still have a couple of things that she can do on NXT. For example, she's never won a singles bout on NXT. There's still singles matches we would want to see her in, especially with new players like Zarya, Stephanie, and Julia. I do think she could definitely go another round with her foe, Roxanne Perez, her friend at one point, enemy, and then friend again, Roxanne Perez. I do think that they could do all of that. And they could probably get that all. Honestly, she can check all those boxes off pretty early in the year and still see herself on the main roster at some point in 2025. But yeah, for whatever reason, I just feel like she might fit in a little bit more on the main roster. She might stand out a little bit more. All right, and next one is kind of predictable, but I'm going to go with Julia. And the reason I'm going with Julia is because even before she came into WWE, I always imagined her time on NXT wasn't going to be that long. I always saw her as someone, because she had, this is vast experience with Stardom, New Japan Pro Wrestling, all of the things that she's done outside in preparation for this big opportunity. I feel like it's always sort of made her feel just far more advanced and far too advanced to be on the NXT roster. And that's not to say that you don't want advanced people on NXT. Of course you do. But I just kind of see Julia as somebody that should be on the main roster already. She's 30 years old. There are girls that are a little bit younger on NXT. So I do think that Julia has it. She's ready. She should be on the main roster. I feel like NXT should be a quick pit stop for her. I could see her defeating Roxanne for that NXT Women's Championship. And one of the things that we've seen happen a whole lot is we have seen NXT Women's Champions go off to the main roster very fast. As soon as they won the title, mind you, because I was going to mention Indy Hartwell, but she was there for like kind of a while before she won the title, and then she got moved up. But like Tiffany Stratton is another one that won the title and got quickly moved on to, and she's acclimated herself to the main roster very, very easily, and I can see Julia doing the exact same thing. Alrighty, next up, this one's kind of cheating because I did say 5 people, so don't punish me in the chat, but I feel like this one you'll understand why it's a duo, and it's Lash Legend and Jakara Jackson. I feel like this one's almost sort of I don't know if it's a given, of course. I can't really say that. It's pro wrestling. Nothing is really a given in pro wrestling, right? But because we have seen Lash Legend and Jakara Jackson appear on the main roster multiple times now, I feel like they're a unit. They're a tag team. I almost feel like it would be kind of fucked up if you just had Lash Legend go up and not Jakara, or just Jakara and not Lash Legend. Again, just given that we have seen them both on the main roster. So this one's a little bit cheating, but come on. I think that Lash Legend and Jakara both, of course, more so Lash Legend, but I think she really did prove that she has what it takes to be on the main roster, because she went in there and she at no point did she look like she was sticking out like a sore thumb. She didn't look bad. Yeah, of course she's going to be greener than a lot of people because of course there's far more people that are, more advanced and have more experience, but she wasn't so green where you were thinking, "Oh my god, this is awful for her." No way. I thought she looked really good. I thought she nailed it. I think she has a very unique look, a cool presence that they're sort of missing from the main roster. And I think Lash Legend can sort of fill that void. And I just think she just looked really good in those couple of first impressions that we got of Lash Legend on the main roster. So I'm going to say Lash Legend and Jakara Jackson together as a unit. So I'm going to count that as one. Alrighty, with that being said, I got two more picks, and the next one that I'm going to go with is a personal favorite of mine, and that is Lola Vice. Now, Lola Vice, I think, she's just a star in my opinion. I do think there are still some things that she needs to work on, which is primarily promos. I think promos is probably the biggest thing that she still needs to really sort of get a little bit better at. But for the most part, I think she is so freaking feisty. She is so feisty in the ring, and she's got so much attitude. And that for me always really grabs my attention. And she's also somebody that I think checks off all the boxes. She has a legitimate background with mixed martial arts. As many of you guys know, she was part of Bellator. And then, so she's got a legitimate background check. Two, she's good in the ring. In fact, she really picked up wrestling very, very fast. So another check there. She's got a great look, another check there. And I just think she overall piques the interest of people with her personality, with her looks, and her overall vibe. So for that reason, Lola Vice, girl, let's send her to the main roster. I can't wait to see her give attitude to some of the girls and just be you know, feisty and fighting each other and all of that. So Lola Vice is another pick. And the next one that I have to mention, now, this is someone that a lot of people have been anticipating for this person to go to the main roster. And every single time they ask me, Denise, do you think Roxanne Perez is going to the main roster? She is the number one person that I get asked, is she going to the main roster? And I always say the exact same thing. I say, look, I am not in a rush to get Roxanne Perez to the main roster. This girl is only 23 years old. And I will admit that still in this video. If this doesn't happen for Roxanne Perez in 2025, it's fine. She's 23 years old. I'm in no rush to get Roxanne Perez to the main roster, but she has done a shit ton already on NXT. She won the Women's Iron Survivor Challenge in 2022. She won the NXT Women's Breakout Tournament in 2022. She is a one-time NXT Women's Tag Team Champion with Cora Jade, and she's also now in her second run as NXT Women's Champion. Granted, there is a lot of new female faces there for her to work with, but honestly, I do have a feeling that after Julia takes the belt from her, which I'm predicting Julia takes the belt from her, don't know. I know that's the big popular prediction, so I'm running with it too. Get me on the bandwagon, but I do think that there's a possibility that after that she does go to the main roster. She's had a couple main roster matches. She's also been part of the Royal Rumble, so she has had some moments on the main roster. And I think now, I do think she has what it takes. She has grown so much as a character. She's gotten more and more comfortable as a promos. I love that NXT always gives her in-ring promos because that's the only way that you're going to get better. And you can tell they really care about her as a future star because they do give her those opportunities. And you have seen her grow. She's faced a lot of criticism in her young career on NXT, but I really do think that Roxanne Perez is absolutely incredible. And I do want to see her on the main roster. I'm going to throw her in there as a prediction, even though if she doesn't happen this year, it's still cool. She can still mix it in and have lots of fun with all of the girls that are coming into NXT. So there you guys have it. That, my friends, is my NXT 2025 predictions, call-ups for next year. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know. Pick 5 women, 5 men, and let me know who they are in the comments section below. And as always, thank you guys so much for watching. Before I go, I do want to go ahead and recommend a video to you. One of my favorite videos that I've done this year is 10 things that I'm really excited for in pro wrestling for the year 2025. So if you guys want to check out that video, I suggest you do. Pick 10 things that are really exciting in pro wrestling for next year. So if you want to get hyped about about wrestling and all the things that are coming up, that is the video to check out. Let me know if you do. Catch you guys on the next one. Bye, everyone.